Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. Welcome to Mengding Shan in Sichuan province. This is the first ever mountain where tea was cultivated by man. Way back in 53 BC, Wu Lijian, a Taoist monk, came to this mountain and planted 7 tea trees, the first ever tea trees planted by man for the cultivation of tea. And the first tea that was ever produced was a green tea called Gan Lu, aka Sweet Dew. This historic tea somehow has drifted from the limelight and has been replaced by its more famous cousins like Longjing tea or Anji Bai Cha or Bilo Chen. So I'm here on a pilgrimage to learn more about Gan Lu, to find out the intricacies of what makes excellent Gan Lu. So let's go explore and learn together and find out more about this historic tea. Okay, so as always, let's start with the area. We are in the scenic area of Mengding Shan. This is in a protected area that is reserved for making the top quality Gan Lu that represents around 6,000 mu of land. So this is the historic area, and around me we've got Lao Chuen Cha bushes. The cultivar is always very, very important. So these are the indigenous heirloom cultivars of this area. They're sexually propagated, so these are grown from seed. You can spot that apparently by looking at the trunks or the branches coming out of the ground, and if you see lots and lots of branches, then that tends to be a sign that it's sexually propagated. If it was made from cuttings, you'd see more single trunks. So these are Lao Chuen Cha, also known as Chun Ti Zhong. Basically, that means heirloom variety. And because they're sexually propagated, they're all going to have different genetics slightly. Now, in Sichuan, they're trying to develop more of a sophisticated way of naming the cultivars, similar to how they do in Wuyi Mountains, but they haven't got there yet. And so the way it's being described to me is that these bushes are like kids in a kindergarten. They're all going to have slightly different genetics, but they're all thrown under the same heading of the Chun Ti Zhong variety. You want to try to avoid varieties which have been brought in because they're early sprouting or that they have higher yield. For example, there are some varieties from Fuding that are being brought in, and also there's a number 9 variety which is well known here, which has a very different look and produces lower quality tea. It's again all to do with making sure that you get the right cultivar for this area, and that generally means that it's going to be slightly slower growing, so it's not going to hit the market as early in spring, and it's also going to be lower yield.
这淘大量是呀，底下淘大要这种标准吗？这种标准是不是这叶子很长哦？这芽子刚冒出来的嘛。
The picking profile for Gan Lu is very specific. It's only picked once a year. It's the first picking of the year, and it's 1 bud and 1 leaf, with the bud bigger than the leaf. That's the standard that everyone is going for. After Gan Lu has been picked, then the tea bushes will continue to flush, they'll continue to grow, and those pickings should be used for what is called Maofeng tea. So Sichuan Maofeng tea or Mengding Maofeng tea, which is a more common green tea. Again, really great tea, but it should only come from the second pickings of the year. Obviously, some producers will take those second pickings and make Gan Lu, but that's not the way it should be. Something I really want to show you about this garden is it really meets all the criteria that we're looking for a really high quality tea garden. Because you can see around me, varied ecosystem. I can see some wild tea bushes there, just left to grow. I bet the tea there is amazing from that bush. And also rocks, lots of rocks. And that's really important. You know, the best tea gardens will have weathered rocks in and amongst the tea garden, almost invisible. You can't really see them until you walk through the tea garden. But these weathered rocks will add minerality. Every time it rains, it's going to add minerality into the soil, which is going to improve the quality of the tea. Tea garden management is very, very important. After the spring harvest, the bushes shouldn't be used for tea anymore until the next spring. And in that interim period, the farmers have a choice. They can either prune back the tea plants, usually about twice, in preparation for that spring harvest, or what they can do is they can leave the garden unpruned for a couple of years and prune just every 2 years. So the difference is if they prune every single year, then they're going to have a consistency of yield and they're going to have a consistency of growth and they're going to have a consistency of flavor. Whereas if they decide to leave the plants to grow and prune just every 2 years, then they're going to have less consistency in growth. They're going to have less consistency in yield. They're going to have less consistency in flavor, but they're going to have more unique flavors because nature has been allowed to influence the flavor more because it hasn't been pruned so much. So there's a choice that needs to be made there. Do you play it a bit more conservative, make sure you've got more consistency, or do you let things change a little bit more and have a bit more of a unique character in your tea? Hopefully that character is desirable. So it's morning here and they are picking for Gan Lu. It's cold here. There's been a drop in temperature, which is not ideal. I was speaking to the person who owns this land and it's a nightmare for him. He was saying it's just, he said it's like having 4 seasons during 1 season. It's not been fun for him. I don't know what it means for quality, but he's not happy in terms of the work that these changing conditions are giving him. So after picking, these leaves are now going to go back and they're going to go through some withering. They don't really call it withering here, they call it air drying. So it's just more about letting some moisture dissipate, allowing these leaves to wilt. They're not going to mess with them, they're not going to shake them. But it is kind of a withering process. It's just a very, very gentle withering process that is just about reducing moisture and making the leaves more pliable. And then this evening, we're going to go through the very important phases of shaching and rolling. At a homestay on Mengding Mountain, and look what we've got here. This is egg with freshly picked tea buds that we just picked up in the fields. So that's exciting. We've got to try that. We've also got lovely soup here, some charcuterie, some double fried pork. I guess this is tofu? What is this?
这个
猪肉?
猪肉
Pork. Okay, but we've got to try
回锅肉
this one here.
茶芽炒鸡蛋。朋友圈先吃。
Beautiful. It tastes just like an omelette, but then when you bite through the tea buzz, you get that lovely, fresh green tea taste. A little bit nutty, a little bit jasmine-y. Really delicious. I love eating up in the mountains. It is just always the best food.
OK 啦 ，everybody, let's go。
照相和停留，请按这个
So here we are at the top of Mengding Mountain, and my pilgrimage would not be complete without visiting the exact spot where Wu Lijian first cultivates tea. So 2078 years ago, one man decided to plant 7 bushes. There or thereabouts, here in this garden. The reason why 7 is now the figure that is used is because 7 is considered to be the highest ranking yang number. So yang numbers are 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. But 9 is reserved for the emperor, which is the highest yang number, and also 5. So the emperor reserves 9 and the middle yang number. So 9, 5, emperor. So the highest yang number that could be used would be 7. So that's why they put 7 bushes here, and the story goes that it was 7 bushes that were planted. Now, of course, those bushes behind me are not the original bushes, although they do look very old, judging by the size of their roots and their branches. You can see the tiger behind me guarding it. This is something from the Han Dynasty, the fierce tiger guarding this very sacred space. So yeah, really special place for me, because as somebody who has dedicated more than 25 years of my life in tea study, I've never seen the exact spot where tea cultivation began over 2078 years ago, and think how much tea has changed the world in all of those years. It's always great to come to the tea markets in these famous tea producing areas, and you can see this is the one in Mengding. Loads and loads of different teas, you know, black teas, green teas predominantly. We've got lots of Gan Lu. We've got some like Juyeqing style teas, Gan Lus of different grades, Moli Hua Cha, some black curl spring teas, and what's this?
红白茶，它是
Hong Bai Cha. Let's give it a smell. Doesn't smell of much, to be honest with you. Doesn't smell of
它是
much.
一种非茶叶类的饮料。
Yeah, it's not tea. That's what I thought. It's not tea. The tea quality here looks pretty good. You know, there's some decent tea here, although it has that look of marketplace tea. You know, slightly commodity, machine made, very uniform. You know, this isn't going to be the kind of market that you're going to find a really top grade tea. And I'm certainly not here to buy anything, even though people are trying to put tea under my nose, but I just like to visit these areas just to get in amongst the action and see what's happening. This is also a market that can be used for fresh leaf, so not just finished leaf, to sell fresh leaf to potential producers, but that's not happening here. I don't see any fresh leaf. Everyone here is worried because the weather is cold. It's about 4 degrees, which is not normal for this time of year. And it's not just here. It's not just in Sichuan province. News is coming in that in Zhejiang province, in Hubei, in Henan, in Anhui, there's a big problem because it has suddenly gotten very cold just at the time when everyone should be picking their high-grade teas. It is freezing. What does that mean? That means that the overall yield will drop. It means that the overall quality will drop. It also means that the very, very high quality teas will be more scarce and therefore more expensive. So, you know, it's tough times here. This year, it seems it's going to be a difficult year. Now, of course, it may turn around, you don't know, but people seem to be worried. And certainly this market, which usually has lots of stalls outside, they've all moved indoors, not just because it's cold, but I don't think it's just because of that. It's because there's not as many tea traders, not as much tea around because of the cold snap, less being produced. So it's a bit worrying. We'll see how things change over time with the season. Maybe it'll warm up and we'll be okay. But right now, here in Sichuan and all over the green tea growing provinces of China, it's looking like a tough year.
第二个是煮黄芽吗？
两锅干了
啊，
煮2锅干了。
煮2锅干了。
嗯。
李师傅，他平常在新加坡工作，怕描述不太完整。
Hello everybody, welcome to the household of Master Li here, who is making sweet dew, aka Gan Lu. And we're going to try to go through the production process. Lots of steps to make such a famous tea. First of all, let's start with the picking. You can see the picking here. Very, very high quality picking. A bud and one leaf. And the bud should always be bigger than that one leaf. Really, really high quality picking. You can see the thickness of these buds, which means it's a proper picking with lots of layers. You want about 5 layers, ideally, when the bud has opened. Now we're going through the first stage of the shaching process. There are 3 shaching phases to make Gan Lu. The temperature of this wok is about 300 degrees Celsius, and it's really scorching here. And the leaves want to get up to about a temperature of about 140 degrees to go through the first shaching or fixing stage or de-enzyming stage. After this, it's going to go through a rolling phase, but let's just admire the master at work.
Oh, 好香！
我前面刷过，不刷可能。我就靠着它那刷来讲，再加点小底料。好。
这一步通过快速的抖动，让它快速的降温，并且剥掉一些碎叶。
So the first shaching process is complete, and now what needs to happen is these buds and leaves need to cool down before they roll it. The reason is they need to allow the water to dissipate and rebalance in the tea. You can't roll it hot. It's not balanced. The water's not balanced, and that's not going to make a good flavored tea. I want to smell this though, so I'm going to sneak a peek. Wow, beautiful, beautiful smell. Slightly creamy in its smell. Nutty, creamy, obviously got that sort of raw greenness, a slight jasmine aroma as well. Just the archetypal smell of high quality, high theanine, well-picked spring green teas. And I can smell the amino acids in this tea. It's got a slightly saline quality to it as well.
So comfortably. What do you think? Is it good?
So after the shaching process of the Gan Lu, it's going through a rolling phase. Doesn't want to break the leaves, he just wants to roll them while they're pliable to start to break down cell walls, release more of the richness of the tea and develop shape. The smell coming off this shaching is just the smell that I have missed so much from not being in the mountains. This smell and the withering smell are some of the best smells on the planet, especially if you're a tea lover. I want to make a quick comment here. You can see that this is a household producing tea. Of course, on Mengding Mountain, there are bigger production facilities producing in larger quantities, but of course, these are the kinds of producers that I am most interested in. These very, very small households that pay all the love and attention that's necessary to make the highest quality pinnacle tea. And this man is a master, controlling the temperature. I saw his hands before, blisters all over them. It's cold here as well. So standing by this wok is actually really nice, the heat, because it's about 7 degrees here in Mengding, so it's cold, and they normally process these teas at night. So this is a standard time for processing. As usual, in tea season, the tea makers don't rest. So the Gan Lu is now having its second firing. Temperature feels to be about the same. It's very important with Gan Lu that it goes through 3 firing and 3 rolling phases. This is a very common issue when you're looking for Gan Lu. Most or a lot of the tea on the market is only stir-fried once and rolled once. To really get good development in great Gan Lu tea, it needs to be stir-fried 3 times and rolled 3 times. Why? You can't really develop the flavor and the shape of the tea if you just fry the hell out of it in one fry so that it de-enzymes completely. It's going to change the flavor completely. With that extended frying process and the rolling when the leaves are essentially much drier, like 40% humidity, which is the sort of water content that is in the leaves after the 3rd frying. And so it's very important that you split the process up into 3 stages, 3 shaching and 3 rolling phases. That way you get the perfect level. In China, they use an expression, you can't achieve everything at once. You need to make sure that you go through the different stages. And if you try to rush it and you try to just do it in one process of shaching and one rolling, which a lot of commodity sweet dew does, then you're not going to produce a really high quality tea. So this is the second shaching process after my wonderful rolling. I think my hands are going to make a big difference to this tea. So now it's going to cool, and then it's going to, in about 15 minutes time, because it's cold here, so it will cool down quite quickly, the water will rebalance again, and we can go through the second rolling process. So this is repeated 3 times. And apparently the third shaching and rolling is the most fundamental phase, because the third shaching doesn't just de-enzyme, but adds extra depth and flavor. So it's about building more flavor in the third shaching process. And so a lot of sweet dew on the market may go through 3 shaching processes, but the third one might not be done with enough depth, especially if it's done with machines and is not done by eye to really assess the right level. So if you're machine frying a tea, so it's done in a more automated way, you're going to err on the side of being a bit conservative. You're probably going to just not want to overdo it. So you're going to therefore set the dials a little bit to be safe. And that safety means that you can produce tea which just tastes a little bit unfinished. And that's a very common issue when you're tasting Gan Lu tea. The best I could describe it is nougat. It's got a nougat, nutty, sweet note to it. Okay, so the second roll has now happened here, and you can see the look of these leaves are starting to be more reminiscent of Gan Lu. Really, really, really starting to curl up, starting to lose the moisture. Oh, the smell has developed a little, can smell a bit of the fire in it, a little bit of the heat. Even though it's cool, you can smell the wok. There's a little bit of a toasted note. And what you also want to look for with high quality green teas like this, and it's a strange thing to say, is that you might want to pay attention for little scorch marks. Because again, machine fried tea is all about uniformity. It's about trying to be safe about it. And getting a little scorch, just a little scorch, a little bit of a blister on the tea leaf means that it's handmade, because it's going to have that edge to it. It's going to be taken to that level of shaching where there may be some blistering, and that adds that little bit of toastiness and nuttiness to the tea, which adds complexity and adds new depths to the tea, which is why it's so important. So pay attention to that. You might start to see a little scorch mark here or there, and that's a good sign, as long as it's not too much. Now, the most important shaching process, the third shaching process for Gan Lu, is taking place. It's still going through some fixing. There's still going to be some enzymes that are active in the leaf, and therefore it still needs to go through that final de-enzyming process. But we're adding even more nuttiness, even more warmth, even more depth. And it needs to be taken to just the right level. Not too much, but certainly not too conservative. Here we go, look at this. It's like if you're, I don't know, roasting beans, but with jasmine flowers as well. It's floral and nutty. It's floral and warm. Very, very different. And I think this is key. This is key. This point here, this master deciding how far to take this process. And you can see a lot of shaping happening during the shaching process as well.
Okay. Mr. Dong.
I can't believe he's letting me do this. This is such a small batch of Gan Lu, but he's letting the foreigner come and mess up his batch. I'm just copying what I'm seeing.
搓汤圆。
Oh, the smell is changing. Starting to get to that point where I feel like it's ready. It's really starting to smell strong. I'm actually freaking out here now because they're still frying it. This is still the third frying and I'm smelling really strong smells. It's not burnt, but the nuttiness is taken to such a degree. Now I really understand why they say that this third shaching process is the crucial one to develop flavor. There's bravery going on here. This is one batch, one picking of the year. Do not mess it up. The tendency would be to play it safe. The tendency would be, this is going to be tasty, this is going to look good. But no, they're going for it. Brave producers producing top quality tea because of their bravery. And they're still frying. The smell is just transforming and transforming every time I smell it. Actually now it's moved from the smell that it's overdone to, how did that happen? It's shifted to almost like a milky smell. There's some magic going on at this point in the making of Gan Lu. And now I know, every time I've tasted Gan Lu and I felt like, it's just a bit, something missing in it. I think it's all about how brave you are when you're going through this process. And they still fry. What's the temperature? He's turned down the temperature slightly. Mm-hmm. Whilst doing this frying, he was actually playing with the temperature. So again, it's not just time, it's starting higher, reducing down. Finally, I can breathe. It's coming out. Oh, no, changed his mind. What you're witnessing here is the intricacy that divides great tea from pinnacle tea, right here. This moment. It's such a privilege to witness it. And to anybody else out there who's not into tea, this might seem bizarre and trivial, but to me, this represents the difference between masterful tea and just premium tea. Finally, he's taking it out. But it's amazing how that smell transformed. It's amazing because there was a point that I was thinking, you're going to burn this. And then it shifted. I think he turned the temperature down and it just shifted to this milky, creamy, like baked panna cotta aroma. It's the magic of tea making.
好香啊！
Okay, I just want to say one more thing about this Gan Lu tea that he's made. It started with a tiny batch, but you saw the pickings, right? Very, very small batch. And look at what it has become after the third shaching. A tiny amount of tea.
揉捻一下，它还没有干，所以它揉不成粉末。
This is now about, I would say, 30 to 40% humidity, and it's still pliable. You can still roll it into a ball. You know when Gan Lu is ready, apparently. It's very technical. They say it's ready when you take it in your fingers and you roll it, it crushes into powder. So it has to be dried. And for the proper stuff, that can only be done one way. Come over here. It can only be done, obviously, with charcoal. Wow, that charcoal fire is perfect on a cold evening like this. So it's going to go through the tangbei process, charcoal baked until it is dry, until when you roll it up, it crushes into a powder, the most traditional way. Now, some places are using electric baking, but charcoal will always taste better. And this tiny batch of tea is going to be put into here, and it's going to be baked. For how long? I'm not sure. But I don't think it will take that long. Maybe an hour, something like that. At low temperature, you've got to wait for the charcoal to completely burn out so that there's no black left, it's only white. Still going to be hot, but because of the fact that this is a conical shape here, the heat dissipation should be relatively even, and it's quite a tall basket, so it will cool the air down. You don't want any leaves falling in the charcoal, otherwise that will ruin the whole batch because it will start to smoke the tea. So very careful attention needs to be paid because otherwise all of this work will be for nothing. Just look where this is being done. That's all I've got to say. It's being done like the front porch of a household. You talk about handmade tea, or like homemade tea. This is homemade tea on Mengding Mountain.
准备该拉喽。
不要翻车了。
And of course, that charcoal is going to impart its own character and flavor to the tea. It's going to be subtle, but it's going to be there. He's taking some out.
我去了，我里边嘛，找一下。
I wonder why he's taking some out. I'm hoping it's to throw into some hot water. That's what I'm hoping. Let's see if we're treated. The temperature here feels warm, but not hot at all. Maybe 30 to 40 degrees Celsius, like warm body temperature, about that. And as it dries, oh, thank you, a bit of light, it'll develop a little chestnut aroma, develop crispness, develop depth, and will hit the market as top grade Mengding Gan Lu for you to enjoy.
豁达要注意的。
My hopes
知道30公分。
My hopes have been answered. The moment we've all been waiting for, tasting this Gan Lu. Okay, it's not finished because it's not finished charcoal roasting, but how often do you get to taste Gan Lu fresh made on Mengding Mountains, a real privilege. You can see lots of activity there from the tea hairs, so that cloudiness is from the tea hairs. Again, a sign of quality. Cheers, everybody. Oh. Smooth, rounded, sweet, sweet. Nougat candy floss. No astringency. A great combination of purity and freshness, but sweetness and smoothness. You know, these kinds of teas, they're so simple, they're so pure, and yet in order to achieve that right level where the tea still tastes finished and developed, for these simple teas, that's the real skill. This is gorgeous, and I can already tell this is a top grade Gan Lu, even though it hasn't finished its baking process. It is delicious. All right, everybody, that's the end of part one of this epic journey to Mengding to learn about Gan Lu Tea. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you join us for the next episode where we go even further. We're going to be traveling deep into Mengding to learn about the different styles of production. We're going to be sharing some tips about how to search for the best Gan Lu, and you're going to be learning some of the tricks that the tea sellers use out there. Plus, the all-important question, will I find a Gan Lu that's suitable for Mayleaf? Did I buy that Master Li tea, or did I gamble and try and find a better one elsewhere? I'll see you back on the mountain at the next episode.